Hi everybody, my name is Maxwell Zhou and I'm here with Certus Cybersecurity. And today we're going to be providing a hacking tutorial on XXE attacks. An XXE attack is an XML external entity attack. It targets an application's behavior when processing XML data. You can leverage XXE attacks to perform actions like accessing the file system or server-side request forgery. There are many ways to perform an XXE attack, such as X-include and style sheets, but we're only going to be discussing a small subset within this video. An XML external entity is a type of custom entity whose value is located outside of the defined document type, the DTD. Referencing custom in the example below will now resolve to a file that exists outside of the current context. In our first example, we'll be looking at an application that checks the number of open spots in a class via XML input. As we can see here, it takes in a class ID and responds with the spots available for that class. In our first exploitation attempt, we're going to try to retrieve local files. We want to trick the server into performing actions within the context of the running application, which may have access to sensitive files. So in our payload here, we first define an XML external entity called XXE. We then set the value to file XXE password. We then call this newly defined external entity within class ID. When we run this payload, we'll see that in our response that we get some type of error. It says could not find given class ID. However, instead of returning the number of spots available, it then returns the contents of the file that we specified in our payload. However, most cases of XXE are actually blind attacks. And in a blind attack, the application does not return external entities in the responses. Therefore, we have to first host a malicious DTD file and then use XXE attacks to perform server-side request forgery in order to exfiltrate data. We'll then review the logs of our server to confirm the trigger of our payload. So our payload here is a little more complicated. This is the contents of our maliciously hosted DTD file at attackerhost.com. So we first define an XML entity named file with the value of file XXE password. We then define an XML entity called eval with a dynamic declaration of an entity called exploit. Then exploit will then be evaluated as an HTTP request with the specified value file as a parameter. Calling the eval entity causes the dynamic declaration of exploit to be performed. Finally, calling exploit will then send the contents of the file to the attacker host. To see this in action, we actually send a request that references our maliciously hosted DTD file. And then the response returns some type of error. In this case, it's a generic error. So the only way for us to confirm the trigger of our payload is by reviewing the server logs of attackerhost.com, which is within our control. We'll see that a GET request was made with the contents of the file that we specified as one of the parameters, X. Most XXE attacks stem from the support of dangerous features of the XML parser, such as external entities. Simply disable the resolution of external entities to prevent this attack. If external entity resolution is absolutely necessary, you can place strict ingress and egress communication rule sets as well. For more information on XXE attacks or for your cybersecurity needs in general, please contact us here at Certus Cybersecurity. Thank you.